Welcome to Think Fast, where I have a cold because I have been crying in happiness because my co-host is the first story of the day. Kya chal raha hai? What is happening? I'm going to sniffle like an old person saying, "Kitna khushi hua? Kitna khushi hua?" But yay, first
Kitna
story is
khushi
going to be
hua.
you. How you have had an exciting week.
Oh my God, I've had an exciting couple of months and I am tired to the bone, but I have still shown up because of my belief in this podcast. No, but yeah, we're very, 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 very excited. If I didn't use the word very enough.
So for those who are living under a rock, and if you haven't heard, do you want to break the news? Should I break the news? It's very weird for me to break the news. You should break the news.
Okay, I will break the news. Guys, I am very delighted to inform you that Nykaa has received a board approval to acquire 100% stake in LBB, which is the company that I am a co-founder of. So yeah, big news, man. Woohoo!
Talia. Well
Yeah,
done.
no, I'm very
No,
excited.
this is super exciting. I think it's also like, I mean, I know there's stuff which we can talk about, but maybe now is not the time to talk about. But I think in general, as a host and as we would say on this show, this seems to be a very good fit in terms of what you've been building and what Nykaa has been working towards. And because you will not comment because you're part of the story, you're being very nicely silent. But I'm going to say that generally to me, it just kind of makes it, when I first heard about it and I was like, this just makes sense. I could see how this would really work. But yes, you can comment.
Yeah. No, I think, obviously we'll talk about it more openly once our closing is complete, because right now Nykaa has received board approval, but there's this whole other process that happens after board approval's been received. But long story short, I think, I obviously personally as a founder really admire what Nykaa has built, because they're one of those few companies who first and foremost haven't raised too much money. And I'm not saying this just because, they're putting money into us, and I've always said this even on previous episodes, right? Where they've raised very little money for the amount of turnover and revenue that they have, which I think is great. I think the great thing about them is content and community building has always been in their DNA. So even when we met Falguni and the, key team at Nykaa, you see that they look at everything through the lens of content, community, and inspiration. I won't even call it content community. I'll say that both Nykaa and LBB are in the business of inspiration, because you don't need to buy foundation, eyeliner, you don't need to buy fashion, you don't need to buy home, but all of these categories are, behemoths because of, how they make people feel and how they inspire people in that very moment, to make a purchase. So we've got a lot of fun things coming up. And finally, most importantly, like LBB, even Nykaa has a massive focus on emerging brands and emerging categories. In fact, they just launched an accelerator/incubator with Estee Lauder, and and they've had the focus on emerging brands, which obviously I can very safely and securely say we understand better than anyone else in this country. So I am very, 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 very excited. My team is so excited. It was so funny. I was all like, guys, I could have raised $100 million round and you wouldn't have been as happy as you are as me telling you that we've been acquired by Nykaa. But it was Friday was a very happy day for Team LB.
Let me ask the most important question. Do I get free vouchers for my anti-aging creams that I use on my face?
Why does everyone ask me this? That's the first thing my colleagues also ask me. Do we get employee discount at Nykaa now?
But it's important. Today only I bought some stuff on it.
Acha, very good, very good. I will ask, but for that you'll have to join Team LBB. Varun, do it.
I can get co-host discount anyway. I will not push this.
Okay, we'll figure something out.
Speaking of discounts, let's move on from great news to not so good news. Uber lost $707 million on their Zomato investment in the first half of this year, and they plan to sell their entire stake off. The Zomato news isn't getting good, is it?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a tough spot for them to be in, because if you look at it prima facie, all their numbers seem to be improving.
I agree.
They posted higher revenues, higher profit, their losses are lowering. So it's kind of weird, because no matter what the improvement at their end seems, it's almost like public markets are still not, I won't even say not buying the story, but somewhere are showing their lack of confidence in the ability of Zomato to deliver on profits. But I mean, I don't know, man. I would not want to be Dipinder Goyal or anyone who's running a public company, because that whole scenario is just not in your control.
And I think also, just adding to what you're saying, I feel in many ways what's really happening is, it's tough to be a public company I mean, it's tough to be a company when there's a bit of a downturn happening globally. But I guess in their sense, Zomato is one of those companies you look at for the long term. You're not going to see immediate, like, oh my God, I'm going to make a lot of money off the shares that I own, right? Like in a year or 2 years. But it's one of those like long-term companies per se. But that, I'm guessing that confidence doesn't really stick in when the markets are not so good. I also kind of feel that this is genuinely that entire segment of like food delivery, just like, even like an Uber, Ola. I think that entire side is seeing a lot of like investors saying, okay, 1 second, is this actually going to turn out in a positive light for us, or are we just like put money into this segment and it's not really going to grow? I feel that's also part of this.
Yeah, lots going on. But in the interest of time, let's quickly run through the other stories. We have Sadhguru and Koo, who are India's biggest advertisers on Meta for social issues. I appreciate the Quint, which is the source of this article, category calling out,
Social
biggest
issues.
advertisers for social issues, because I think the story was being circulated as they are the biggest advertisers.
Which I was very
period.
surprised by initially, because I saw that other article and I was like, 1 second, this doesn't make sense. How could they be?
I was like, bigger than HUL? That is
No, I would generally
stupid.
assume it would mostly be political parties, which would be the largest spenders. I mean, if you look at
fair,
government and
like
political
BJP
parties
and the
are
likes.
the largest spenders. If you look at the broad base,
Largest
always
spenders, correct. Yeah.
But
True,
also
true,
shows
true.
why But I have a question. I have never seen an ad from Koo. Sadhguru, yes. But Koo, have you seen any ads? I'm not the target audience, I'm guessing, but I've never seen an ad.
Yes,
It's very good
exactly
targeting.
why you have not seen any ad. Exactly why you have never seen any ad from Koo. You are not their TAM.
So should I feel sad
but you
about
are
it and
totally
say
Sadhguru's TAM.
Koo? Or...
Oh my God. Oh
Guys, I have a cold.
My God.
So if I'm watching the video version, I'll pull out this napkin from time
Enjoy
to time.
turning 40 this weekend,
My child
friend.
caught a germ,
Enjoy
and so I
turning
have got
40
that
this
germ
weekend.
from her.
Great. Your child is my best friend for giving you germs. Okay. SpiceJet's overflowing cup of woes. Is it bad luck or bad management? What do you think it is, Varun? What do you think it
I think
is?
SpiceJet has always been this one like entity that if there is good news, it doesn't really last for long. I just feel that they need a name change. Maybe that should be like, have they gone to a numerologist? Maybe I'm going to come up with
Vaishno Devi
Jao.
Overdue visit,
Yes.
SpiceJet. Take a flight yourself
But again,
to that destination.
the airline business, right? I've never seen any case study where an airline business has in the long term been this super profit driving one, except for maybe, I mean, I'm guessing you look at airlines like Emirates, etc. Indigo is one of the only ones, right? But look at the largest number of them. It all goes into this weird zone of, okay, we are going to burn cash in that sense. But I feel SpiceJet is also like, it's been through so many changes as a company. I mean, where do you even start? I mean, could some of those things just be ingrained from like a long time? Could some of them be more recent? I mean, you can go long into this, but I feel in general, it's just one of those cases where there's been too much that's happened.
In other news, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala's Akasa, as Varun said it, but Akasa as
I actually got Akasa,
yeah.
I thought like, say Bombay has an Akasa beach, which is very like lovely uncles and aunties
shady.
Go there. So I was like, one second, maybe it's like a nice like Akasa beachy kind of airline. Homage to Akasa Beach.
Homage to Akasa Beach.
Very weird if somebody gave an homage to Akasa Beach, if anybody has context on Akasa Beach, which I will not get into right now because I don't want anyone to think this is that kind of show. But but thank God it's not based on Akasa Beach. It's Akasa.
Yeah, and even I made a snafu where I thought because it was called Akasa Air, must be Japanese. But then Varun corrected me. Actually, Jalasmi corrected us and said it's called Akasa because Akasa is Sanskrit for sky, cloud,
very good.
sun.
It'd be very funny if the airline was not about
creative,
sky, if it said water. That would be really interesting. But anyway.
Oh my God.
What is your airline called?
Okay.
Water.
Yeah, but
that's not a good omen. Like
Great joke. Okay. So Akasa Air took its first flight from Bombay to Ahmedabad. Go Rakesh Jhunjhunwala and Aditya Ghosh.
Who by the way, incidentally just got his MBA from Harvard. He just put up a post today saying he's got his...
Yeah, also dude, he exercises a lot.
As should everybody exercise a lot in your old age and young age.
Yeah, he's kind of like you. Like he keeps like posting,
but I got hair.
thirst traps.
I got hair.
On Instagram. It's very weird. It's like y'all are so old, guys. Y'all are too old for this. The only one allowed to post thirst traps beyond the age of
Milind Soman.
30s, beyond the age of 40. Oh my God, yes, that
Okay.
is it. Him and Rahul Khanna. And I
One second. Speaking of thirst traps.
I may make an exception. 1 second. You're going to get into the Sunil Shetty story. I know it.
Yeah.
Caught you. No, but speaking of thirst traps, bro, have you seen R. Madhavan's son?
Oh, yes, I have. I check out everybody on Instagram.
Oh my God, he's beautiful. But in any case, Sunil Shetty
is on LinkedIn.
Tell us
Guys,
more about
this is the best news ever. Like, Anna's on LinkedIn. I was so happy to see it. I'm like, it's so nice. But also, like, I feel in many cases, if you see in recent times, like my excitement for Sunil Shetty aside, because when bro has been in movies where he's working out in the gym wearing ganji and jeans and boots, like that is like legit, like boss level. But it is mainstream now, right? If you look at LinkedIn and who all are kind of coming on, everyone's coming through the creator program. You're kind of seeing where this is going, where they're onboarding not just corporate CEOs, etc., but like people who are on the line of like Sunil Shetty is like a legit entrepreneur, right? Tons of businesses, real estate, all that stuff. Apart from being an actor and a producer and all that stuff, but the mix of people they're bringing on and how they're bringing them on is interesting. And we've both been bullish on LinkedIn in I think we've spoken about that a lot. This kind of shows that they're maturing to that level now, which is great to see. But Anna's the best.
Yes, Queen. And quick other pieces of news. Heineken has beer sneakers,
it is
which is weird in my opinion.
Please, guys, go and just Google it. Anyway, like go on Twitter, you'll find it. It's a really, I was surprised to see how nicely done the sneaker looks like. It's really cool because they've done this transparent sole with this actual beer that flows when you're walking, which I think is super cool. But they haven't made it like random. It looks like a legit sneaker that's well designed and everything else. So anybody who appreciates good sneakers, I think it's a very good job. Yeah. Well done. This is good branded content.
I think this is a brand extension that was not needed, but it's cool. It's cool. And just final roundup of what happened this week. 10-minute delivery is apparently dead. Do you want to double tap on this?
So there was this interesting couple of threads on Twitter because people have noticed that Zepto, for the company that kind of really pushed out this whole quick commerce piece in India, which used to always talk about 10-minute delivery, has taken off the word 10-minute from their website. From a lot of their communication, largely that 10-minute term has gone. Now it's just like quick delivery, right? And it kind of shows that in a country like India, you can't say, I'll give it to you in 10 minutes. Except for Domino's, 30 minutes, the only ones who ever managed that time limit, if you ask me. Yeah. But I think in general, quick commerce is just moved to saying, okay, it's quick commerce. It's not 10-minute delivery. It's not 8 minutes. Because there was this weird time when everybody had a different time. Like Dunzo had their own time and I think Swiggy had their own. So everybody was doing that.
Saying 8 minutes. Yeah. It was all very funny and stupid.
That 10-minute part is gone now.
To be fair, I think it was a good customer acquisition stick. You know what I mean? Like it did the thing that it needed to do, which is create conversations about it. And I think the general uproar on social media and this, that, and the other, pulled everyone's attention to it. So great way to acquire customers and, makes sense to deviate from it. Okay, very quickly, because we're already 12 minutes into this. Balenciaga is launching in India.
Yes, and I will still not buy it.
Woo-hoo. Great. Also, neither of us can afford it. Just saying.
How much is I want to understand how much these things cost. I've never understood why they cost so much. But how much would
starting a nice Balenciaga bag will be like $2,000-$3,000. Balenciaga outfit will be like $4,000-$5,000 upwards.
I've never visually really liked Balenciaga clothes. I think that style of fashion looks like, one second, this looks like someone has taken that what are that blue tarpaulin which people put on top in Bombay when it rains and made it into clothes. That's what it feels like, but I'm that person.
Great. I'm sure Demna will be happy to hear your comparison with all of Dharavi. But continuing, Alibaba has laid off apparently 10,000 employees, man. This was wild. The story is crazy. It's like no one knows what's happening in China anymore.
And also if you think about Alibaba's where it started, right? Really that whole control happening and like Jack Ma pops up once in a while, but this is not the Jack Ma we knew.
Yeah, and last 3 updates. Swiggy is apparently launching a credit card just like Zomato did last year or last to last year, whenever it was. Masaba has launched a new beauty company called LoveChild.
Very interesting, very nice branding. Cool, I really like the way it's been branded and what the focus area is.
And I like the name.
Yeah, and it's
fun name.
And this strong connect to her brand and her as an individual, right? So I think that works really well for a brand coming out of a celebrity. Yeah.
Correct. And last depressing news of today is Indian women hold only 10% of directing, writing positions in film and TV as suggested by a report. What do you make of this? I mean, unsurprising, bro.
I think this Ormax and Film Companion did this report. It's not surprising, to be honest. So because I've worked in this side of it, what's always happened, and I've seen why crews take certain calls, and I'm in no way saying that that is the only reason why. I think largely this has been like a boys' club for too long. But for the longest time, this is not an industry which has been very safe for women to work in, because it's very disorganized. There are largely guys there. So you'll have like, if you're doing an outdoor schedule, for instance, you have 3-4 people in a room. And if there is one woman crew member, you end up having to find 3 more, which many cases you won't. But I feel in the large sense, you've not really been inclusive enough to bring in enough women creators into the space. But that is changing though. I feel that's becoming better more in recent times, but long way to go. It's a huge problem. It's very male dominated, but also if you look at it, large number of the stories that do really well, also very male dominated. So kind of speaks for the audience and then the people who are creating stuff. But it's the honest truth. I've seen too many crews which are just like dudes. And that's the biggest thing. And
but one could make that argument about like any industry, right? Or like most industries in India. Name me like one industry which is inclusive for women, because everything invariably requires public transport, or you know what I mean, or like is very dude dominated.
No, here it is also because of just safety, from the sense that you're doing like 24-hour shifts. You're on sets which are not necessarily the cleanest, or like in random corners. Security is not on up there. And actually,
on point.
Although here it says directing and writing, if you look at cinematography, hardly any women cinematographers, right? I feel writing is where women are really kind of coming into the industry, really taking it on. I feel that writers become directors, and that's how a lot of it is happening. Like a great writer-director movie, which I saw over the weekend, which I will recommend later, but I'm saying this now because it's context to story, is Darlings, right? Which again, like produced by Alia Bhatt, director, writer, also woman. It's this whole thing which this reviewer Sucharita says, that a woman telling women stories. It's a fabulous movie, and it's driven by women. So I feel that it's a matter of time, but long way to go.
Yes, and with that, we have had the world's longest introduction.
It's okay.
What are we talking about today?
Khush khabri.
That is true.
I will sniff with my happiest.
Amazing.
Yes. What are we talking about today?
That is Varun's way of saying time to take a break before we tell you our stories.
Yes. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about Lenskart and their deal with Owndays, or strategic partnership rather, / merger. Talking about the interesting phenomena of creator cloning that's coming up. Super interesting. And it kind of like gives a picture of where the future might really lead. We're talking about work from home, especially in light of what Swiggy just announced, their moonlighting policy, and how the music industry is really changing because of TikTok, Instagram, etc. And TikTok just trademarked something called TikTok Music. So we're going to talk about that.
Binance.
Oh yes, we're talking
WazirX.
about Binance and WazirX. Yes, I was like, one second, scrolling down here. Old person, almost 40, 1 week to 40. And so we're talking about this very bizarre
Most
story of
ridiculous
Binance
story
and WazirX.
of the week. Wild West. Wild West.
But for all that, we will take a break, and I will take some of my cold out of the system, and we'll come back with Think Fast. Welcome back to Think Fast, where we talk about amazing things, but in very long drawn ways. Mostly that long drawn is me, and more crisp is my lovely co-host, who was the news of the week. So anyway, everything else you're getting right now is just a bonus. But what do we talk about Lenskart again?
So obviously we guys have brought up Lenskart in various shapes, sizes and forms over the past 37 weeks of doing Think Fast.
Really? It's been 37 weeks?
It's been 37 weeks. We're getting close to our 1 year Annie. Oh my God. Okay, but getting back to the story.
And we still haven't met in person.
So Lenskart really is... Oh my dude, shit. And like the number of things I have run you through and discussed with you, Vataj, ise bolte hain dosti. Okay, now getting back to the story. Lenskart, and again, I'm not saying this in any other way, but like Lenskart reminds me a lot of Nykaa, where they have stuck their guns to a category and then just like gone, balls deep in that category and problem solved in as many unique ways as is possible. I remember when we guys were talking about, eyewear and glasses in general, and I had made the comparison of, something to Warby Parker, and somewhere like Luxottica came up, right? But basically Lenskart has done what, it should have done from day one, which is really become that Luxottica, where basically in its back end, it is the world's best and strongest manufacturing, unit center plus of all things eyewear, all things glasses, and more. And obviously the front end of it is its, web app, its myriad stores. It's been omni-channel, from not from the very beginning, but it went offline fairly early on in its journey. And I think if you look at the overall Lenskart package, so to speak, they've done everything from helping you figure out what your eye power is. Like they had what they called an optometrist who apparently, who can come to your doorstep and help you figure out your eye power. They also, I think, acquired this VR startup.
Yeah, so you can do AI testing of how it look on your own face and stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah. So they made that bet, and then obviously through this partnership with a Japanese direct-to-consumer eyewear brand called Owndays, they are looking at tapping into more markets than just India, right? So this essentially will help them reach out to 13 more markets with a large focus on SCA, so which is Southeast Asia. So long story short, I think from my point of view, Lenskart's big sort of slam dunk has been they've gone like super deep into anything and everything to do with one category, from manufacturing to supply chain to optometrists to whatever. Like they've just solved it really, really well, and are actually the closest this side of the world has come to having its own Luxottica with a very strong front end and a back end. What do you like about Lenskart, man, apart from Karan Johar talking about how all of his glasses are Lenskart glasses?
Yeah, on Coffee with Karan, and today, before we're recording, I was watching that he actually is putting out reels and stuff like that with Lenskart. But I feel in general, they've really also kind of held this entire bridge between being a mass brand and still being able to cater to fashion, luxury, etc. They did this whole fashion piece with designer Rahul Mishra. And so they went on that end of things. But they also kind of kept the primary Lenskart thing very mass focused, right? Because that's where they can really scale in that sense of the word. And even the sub-brands, I feel they've done their sub-brands really smartly. And sometimes you don't even realize they're sub-brands in that sense. Which is like, let's look at John Jacobs, for example, right? Which is like a great brand by itself, but really fits into the entire Lenskart ecosystem.
Or Vincent Chase, which is one of their older sub-brands.
And they all work together so seamlessly, from the eye testing to the AI for you to figure out your glasses. I think in general as well, I've like, sometimes I've just like had an issue on something when I've ordered from them, and they've kind of called and they've kind of helped out on all those fronts. I think they've gotten the entire cycle perfectly on. And they've not digressed from the original vision. They've just expanded on it and focused, like you said, into one area, including, like, let's say, contact lenses, right? They have their own custom-made contact lenses. Aqualens, right?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And I was talking to a friend of mine who wears contact lenses all the time. And what he was telling me was the fact that he tried their contact lenses once. And from a quality standpoint, they were far better than, let's say, some of the bigger brands which you would always buy from. And so it's not just like you're doing mass, but you're delivering quality. Like if you look at a John Jacobs or a regular frame you buy from them, they're all really good quality in that sense. So I think at a broader space, they kind of got all those things in point. And I think this is a good way for them to grow. They're not trying to say, okay, we are going international and suddenly setting up Lenskart everywhere. Find a right partner, merge with them, grow like that. It's smart. It's smart business. It's a smart way to kind of look into markets which you might not have experience in. So all in all, I like always a brand I've looked at. So they've always been run really well. Kind of shows that the founder as well, right? Because my only thing of the founder is what I've seen of him on Shark Tank. But even there, he seemed like that one sensible person who was always very like balanced versus some of the more outlandish ones which are there as well.
Yeah. I think one thing that I'll add additional to everything that you've covered is examining the way Lenskart has built its business is also a really interesting exercise in marketing and positioning. Because if you think about it, like glasses technically are a commodity. You know what I mean? Like the only job that a pair of glasses has is to help you see better, and anything else around it, whether it's the color of the frame or the shape of the frame, all of those are just vanity metrics. You know what I mean? Like the job to be done is fairly simple. But I think the way that they've iterated on the job to be done. So for example, I remember I'd seen this massive marketing push that they had done in the years where, work from home was mandatory because of lockdown, this, that, and the other. They had this campaign around the blue computer lenses, BLU, where, basically they...
and they're fabulous.
Exactly. I'm not saying it's untrue, but you know what I mean? Like suddenly creating this need out of you have too much screen time, you need to wear glasses that are blue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they've been able to pick up these very specific niches and nuances which are so peculiar only to eyewear as a category, and really build marketing and messaging around those, which I think is genius, man. I mean, you know what I mean? Like they haven't stuck only to the job to be done of your glasses is to help you see better, kaam khatam. They found these other ancillary use cases and helped, build, repeat. I'm assuming through that.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. And it would be interesting to see how they kind of grow and scale. I mean, in many ways, you could see them kind of growing towards the West as well over time now after the Asia focus. And they should. I think they've built a great company. They have all the systems in place. And there's no reason why they shouldn't look to that as well in the future.
We are cheering for you, Lenskart.
Speaking of the future, have you thought of cloning yourself ever? Especially in recent times.
Never.
Never?
Actually, I mean, I think sometimes at work, I'm just like, I wish there were more of me so that one of me could sleep peacefully. No, but apart from that, never. And I find this story like very wacko-jacko, but tell us about it.
So there's been this whole conversation around the creator economy, especially with individual creators saying, okay, an individual is never scalable. So a creator either has to build a business, do something else like that, right? So very interesting. There's a startup called Startup R1. And what they actually do is that they create digital avatars of creators, like very like almost lifelike. So because what ends up happening for a YouTuber, for instance, right? You have to go do shoot separately for YouTube thumbnails. You're also creating multiple iterations of things. Sometimes you might just do like shorter promo shoots in that sense. You might do something for a brand and you're shooting your content. But this one person. So what they're doing is in many of these cases, they're actually kind of creating the avatars for creators. So then creators can spend their time doing a few things and some things can just literally be their clones being used. I think thumbnails are a great example of where clones could really kind of come in. And I think a place where they're really looking at bringing this in is when creators work with advertisers saying, I'm giving you my clone. I'm syndicating my clone to you, for instance, for you to use across your creatives, content, etc. And it's interesting that this might actually solve the scalability issue of an individual as a creator. But I feel that there's a lot of ethical ramifications to this as well. But first thoughts?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I get the bringing convenience into a content creator's life. But, I think a lot of good quality content and also, potentially viral content is based on, some amount of authenticity, originality, and even, sporadicness in the way creators communicate, say, or do things. So I don't know to what extent this will take that away from, the end result that's been created. Obviously, can it help creators in scaling up the amount of content that they're creating and therefore help them, grow bigger and better on platforms like Instagram, YouTube, sure. But I don't know. I wonder how this whole shtick will work in the general context of just making creators more authentic about what they do.
So some of the examples which could be interesting, right? I mean, you've seen some of these used as marketing gimmicks in recent times. You've had that kind of happen. I mean, I know there was those personalized videos from Hrithik and Shah Rukh Khan and all that stuff that happened with a bunch of brands around, I think, Diwali, etc. But some of the biggest customers for R1 are in e-learning, which is interesting, e-com. So a lot of that e-com content, SaaS content. Because what the clones can do is basically expressions and hand gestures and head movements can happen, but not full body movements in that sense. A conversation and this technology has been around for a while, and something which I remember having this conversation with someone who was talking about using this in advertising, and I'd spoken to that company way back early 2020 before the pandemic hit. And what he was telling me was that, let's say, what ends up happening is sometimes a brand has to create an ad and you have to have it in multiple markets, and you have to get people from that ethnicity. But what if you could shoot one model and you could almost like just change skin tones, change hairstyles. So you don't have to shoot the ad multiple times. You just have to shoot the ad once. And then recreate. But again, you're literally changing someone's skin color, which is where I think ethical ramification comes in.
No, but so I get the application of stuff like this in, for example, even something like customer support, right? Like customer support needs, I mean, even if it's a bot, you need it to feel as real as is possible, right? So I get the, bringing humanity into more daily operational jobs, work, or whatever else. But how it impacts or how it impacts or affects creators
I feel
is
it's
the
just
question that I have
time
over here.
saved. Like I use an application. I've used it a few times, which is a podcasting application where, for instance, if you've forgotten to say a line while recording, you don't have to go re-record it. You can just literally add that in there, and it just emulates your voice, and that
Got
word
it.
gets popped in there. So all of that
Yeah.
ends up saving time. But I feel more than anything else, because of the number of places you have to be, a number of things you have to do. I mean, the creator space is not the only use case, but it's interesting that they've gone towards the creator space as their use case. But only time will tell. It could be multiple clones of us. We could do this in multiple languages. We will also go to other parts of Asia and do Think Fast in...
Just like Lenskart.
Yes. Think Fast Bangkok. Sorry, Thailand. Same thing.
We should. We must.
Yes. But we will clone ourselves for that. Or rather, we'll clone them for India. We'll go there. We need to take a break before the next story. So fast. One more break. Kya बात है आज.
Look at us. वाह ताज.
So talented.
Today,
So
आज
talented.
तो लाजवाब.
एक दो क्लोन बना के हमको हॉलिडे पे भेज दो. But anyway, but before that, we should take a break so we can think about our holidays and be right back with Think Fast. Welcome back to Think Fast. I know I'll say welcome. Like what is that show? Who says that?
Armchair expert.
Armchair expert. I should not try to copy. Not a copier, I'm just a cloner. But anyway, what are we talking about now? This is an interesting one, right?
We are talking about
work from home.
Work from home.
So Swiggy announced their moonlighting policy, right? Because most people, when they started working from home, a lot of people, especially in the coding space, and I also feel it's happened with designers and many others. People always also got a side gig because they could do that while doing their job because they were sitting at home. So I'm guessing Swiggy realized that would be one of the things, and they've kind of they still get a sign off to do that. Many companies have that. I think the ad industry has always looked at this as one of those unnamed things, as long as you don't work with the competitor of our client kind of a thing. But I think it also brings back the conversation about work from home, because we initially said work from home is here to stay. Then we said hybrid is here to stay. But you see a lot of people now going back to offices, and there's a lot of conversation still about where work will end up being. Will it be back in offices or will it be this weird mixture where every company takes their own call? What are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, one thing that I'll say is companies rarely proactively do anything like this. They are probably doing, they probably announced this moonlighting policy because it was happening slightly rampantly, in their office. And, folks would have found out and instead of, trying to kill the problem, because a problem like this you genuinely can't do much about. Who is to determine what Varun or Suchita do when they're working from home, right?
Yeah.
A company has no say as such. So long story short, I think the reason why companies like Swiggy may have done this is because it already is the status quo, and then instead of resisting the status quo, they're just embracing it with arms wide open, because logically speaking, no HR even thinks about stuff like this proactively. That's my 2 cents on it. The second is, do I believe that over a period of time, people will have side hustles and people will have things that, keep them motivated and excited about their day, week, month, which are outside of their work? 100% yes, man. I mean, what is Think Fast for me? It's not my job, but, it's something that you do just to stay stimulated and just to, have fun on a topic that you care significantly about once a week. So in principle, I am very pro the underlying, layer over here, which is people should have more avenues to express themselves from a professional perspective, which may not necessarily be income streams for them. Like, we earn nothing from Think Fast, but that doesn't mean you don't, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't mean you don't pursue things that you're interested about, parallel to work. And I think especially for creative jobs, like most of the jobs that are at LBB and most of the jobs that are at Glitch, I have seen that people who do multiple things, even if they're just like in the shape size format as a hobby, sometimes it makes them much better at their actual work, which foots their bills in this, that, and the other. So keeping work from home, moonlighting, blah, blah, bullshit aside, I think the underlying layer of giving your employees the flexibility to pursue more is, I think, that everyone should embrace with arms wide open.
What's also happening is you have kind of governments kind of coming in as also having rules, right? I mean, there was this entire notification from the Commerce Ministry saying, work from home for a maximum period of 1 year is allowed in special economic zones, and there are a bunch of those across the country. but the easiest space for this to happen, because you had a lot of companies who had work from home as an option even pre-pandemic, but they were all like tech companies, right? IT tech companies in that sense. And you speak to anybody from there, this is like they were the easiest to adapt because you didn't actually have to be in office and you only catch up for meetings. But I feel in many cases the question has been, can you build culture remotely? And what brings about that whole, okay, I'm working with some people if it's remote. I don't think there's a yes and no answer to this. I feel like you said, like no HR is going to go and do this specifically unless there is an actual ask for many of these. Like, it's about the people talk about, why can't we have 4-day work week? Because 4-day work week. Because I don't think it works in every country. Countries work in different ways. You can say 4-day work week, but it won't work.
Also, dude, you can afford to say stuff like that in countries where labor is not abundant. I think in India, there is no dearth of talent. Like, none of us are irreplaceable at
want
work,
to work
right?
From
there
offices.
is like a... Yeah, exactly. Because, everyone doesn't live in a 4-3-2 BHK independently by themselves. But, one like last small point I'll make on this work from home versus work from office endless debate is I think it needs to be centered in what logically works for you as a company. Like, I hate it when people get very prescriptive about stuff like this. So, for example, like saying absolute statements like you should only work 3 days from office and 2 days should be hybrid, or everyone has to come to office every single day of the week and we need to get back to 6-day work weeks. First and foremost, it depends on what category and what industry you're in, because some professions require this, like operations, right? You need to be on 24/7 whether you like it or not. Versus, for example, tech, which are slightly more flexible/scalable roles. So what industry you're in is one, and I think the second is it's also a phase of growth of a company, right? There was a time when my co-workers and myself included had to work around the clock, but now we've grown to a point where that crazy daily hustle isn't necessarily what's needed, but you need to be more like thoughtful and thought through about what you're building, how you're building it, so on and so forth. So my 2 cents on this, we need to stop being so like absolutist and prescriptive about what is right or wrong, and companies should have the flexibility of figuring out what works for the employees at large depending on scale of business and category of business.
I agree, and I think but this debate will always go on till eventually we will at some point just find something new to talk about. Work from space. Is that going to be a thing? I want to work from Mars.
Just like Elon.
Let's
Elon. Do it. It will cost us only $1.5 million to get a seat on that rocket ship that takes us there.
In other news, one of the most interesting pieces happening because of social networks is the music industry, right? Look at TikTok globally, look at Reels, especially in India because TikTok's not here. You've been seeing this whole trend of, if a song doesn't do well on either of these platforms, then does a song even become a hit in that sense, in the traditional sense of the hit? And this is also it's an interesting chat because recently there was this whole piece that was found out that ByteDance, who own TikTok, trademarked the term TikTok music. So what stops a TikTok or an Instagram, and even Snapchat has done something in the same space. Something turned around and saying, one thing, we're going to become a record label. We'll let you kind of plug stuff in. We're giving you distribution. We're helping you find an audience. You had like legit artists come out of these platforms, right? Look like someone like across India and the States and across the world. And it kind of might even take away power from platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, etc., who took power away from the record labels in many ways. So interesting times for music.
Yeah, very, very interesting times. Somewhere, I don't know, man, I feel like there's always this push and pull when it comes to long form versus short form, ownership versus lack thereof. It's like when we guys discussed that YouTube story, right? Yeah. That YouTube's average watch time per video is 20-30 times more than, what you'd see on an Instagram or anywhere else is truly remarkable. So I don't know if this like TikTok move is more about the changing nature of music as a category, but it's just that, the idea of what music is or isn't is expanding in its definition. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know if you saw that Beyonce documentary, not the Homecoming one, but the one before that. No. And she said this really interesting thing which stuck with me, where she said that, people don't listen to albums anymore. Now everything is about singles, right? Because everything is just basically about where it features on a Spotify playlist. And a lot of what she did with Lemonade and even what she's done with Renaissance has basically been about how do you bring customers back and listeners back into listening to the sequence of a singer's work. Taylor Swift has done that with her launches as well. Versus, for example, if you look at someone like a Justin Bieber or The Weeknd, they've sort of gone into the business of singles. So the point that I'm getting to is the great thing about media at general, and in this case, the media being a song, is that, the same media can exist in multiple different shapes, sizes, and formats. And just because music is evolving to tiny tidbits which make for fun reels doesn't mean that all other forms of music are suddenly kaput or don't hold the same value as they did before. So double thumbs up to TikTok for doing this, but I don't think this will change much for the music industry at large.
So if you think about it, and I don't know if you ever tried Resso, the platform that ByteDance also owns, which is a music streaming platform like Spotify. It'd be interesting to see if this is almost a push for them to really build their audio streaming platform basis all the data they can kind of get in from TikTok, because Spotify, and this is something which in the article we've looked at for this story, from an insider report, it kind of came up that Spotify, ever since they changed their algorithm to show more of the users' personal interests, people have really kind of felt like they listen to the same songs over and over again. Are you finding newer songs on Spotify? So versus you finding newer songs on a TikTok, here you're finding the same kind of stuff. So, and as Gen Z kind of moves towards this zone, and we don't know what Gen Alpha's thought process is going to be like, are we moving towards almost like learning from TikTok to kind of build the algorithm for music streaming versus going from the old school, it's just Spotify, or like Apple Music though is anyway largely human curated, although now the AI has improved to a reasonable extent. Yeah. But you can't beat the algorithm of TikTok because it's one of the best like algorithms to kind of suggest newer kinds of content, and that could be for music.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I still look at TikTok as a great marketing channel for music. I don't look at it necessarily as the genesis of interesting beats. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it'll always be a great place and way for artists to drop collaborations or, get their immediate 15 seconds of fame. Because when you go back to the basics, what does it come down to? It comes down to helping artists grow more and grow better. And I don't know if, I don't know if through this very light announcement that TikTok's made, I don't know if that'll start happening. Like, it's like my last point on this. For example, Justin Bieber was discovered on YouTube, right? That's like his claim to fame. Now, I don't know if that's going to start happening on TikTok
already
just
is.
because,
Already is.
Artists may be getting discovered, but careers may not be built on TikTok the same way careers haven't been built on YouTube. Like,
so I saw a very interesting thing, right?
To align.
So super interesting thing is there's an artist called Ty Verdes, right? And Ty Verdes' songs have gone like across Spotify, all platforms, like really doing well globally as well. He was this guy who I think worked in a Verizon store and was just uploading his songs on TikTok, and it just got picked up. It became like the craze, and he was still working at the Verizon store in this mobile store while he was like going bonkers, and record labels were calling him. And I follow him on Instagram, and he was doing this very interesting thing to launch his newer songs. Every day he's just going on live. He has a paper on a pillow, which is the name of the song, and the song is playing in the background. And there are thousands of people in that live listening to his new songs. So, like, it's marketing, I agree with you, but imagine you could kind of flip that and say, just add that to playlist. Is there a way to do that? If they can do that, then it's a whole different game.
Yes, queen, perhaps.
Speaking of a whole different game, can we talk about the most interesting story of this week with Binance and WazirX?
Let's do it.
Where do we start?
Excuse me, I thought the most interesting story of this week was LBB and Nykaa.
No, you were not the most interesting story. Yours was the most scintillating story of the week. The most like scintillating blockbuster.
Made my
Ye masala hai.
Yes.
Yours is not
God.
masala. Yours is like you are hum saath saath hain. This is a whole different story.
Yeah, this is like darlings basically in a nutshell.
This is darlings. You go on this story. I want to hear how you explain what happened here.
So basically, this is like the weirdest. I don't even know what to call it. It's almost like pass in the parcel. It's like no one wants this asset.
Mine.
and
I don't
everyone
want
is
it.
just throwing it at each other. It's just the weirdest thing ever. So dear listeners, in case you have been living under a rock and haven't heard about this crazy debacle, which is Binance X WazirX. So basically, long story short, WazirX is this like crypto trading platform, which was one of the first to give them credit where it's due, that launched in India, around the same time or maybe a little before CoinSwitch Kuber. So that's WazirX. Binance, which is one of the largest behemoths within all things crypto trading plus, they apparently made an offer to WazirX. Now, what transpired in between that offer and what has happened now, ladies and gents, is where the mystery lies. So those of you who are Sherlock amongst us, please help us solve this mystery, because basically what it's come down to now is the Binance CEO has very categorically said that the WazirX transaction never finished. The WazirX guy, Nishchal Shetty, is just like, यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? मुझे तो लगा आपने हमें खरीद लिया है. And in this tutu meme of like who bought who and why this transaction has happened or hasn't happened, no one knows who owns WazirX anymore, which is wild and startling and very interesting and confusing all at the same time.
And also what happened is in June, there was a notice that got sent to WazirX for violating some foreign exchange regulations. And this is something which is happening across the board, right? Crypto in many cases has become almost like a vehicle for people to kind of like do like hawala money transactions or any form of transactions which you don't want to kind of get shown in the, I don't want to say legit, I want to say the more mainstream currency exchanges of sorts. And so this could also be, and I think much of the stories here kind of hint towards that, saying that they kind of want to, nobody wants the liability. There's even an investigation into tax evasion on WazirX. So there's a lot of stuff which whoever is finally saying they own it has to go through and kind of explain to the authorities. And especially with what the crypto space is like right now, not just like in India, but globally as well. This is like weird. It's almost like you kind of build something. It's one of the prime examples of this, of the space in the country. Nobody seems to want it.
Which is wild. It's all bizarre and crazy. But who do you think has got this wrong? And also, who is footing the bills of the WazirX employees for the past as ever many months have gone by where no one has known who owns this asset?
That's the question. Who's paying for this? Because, I mean, according to the articles, all the articles, both, I mean, a bunch of the founders have already moved out of day-to-day operations in Feb. They've moved to Dubai. They also set up something else different, I think a different company there as well. And this whole money laundering, piece that is going to come upon them is pretty serious, right? You can get a lot of trouble because of that. So I don't know if the deal had almost happened and they moved and all this stuff happened and it's like got stuck in those last stages, which can happen in a lot of these deals. But it's bizarre. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I still haven't seen a comment
like
from anybody from within WazirX.
Laundry, and this public washing of laundry is pretty like absurd.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's literally both founders going on and on Twitter on, who he said this and he said that, and then they bought me and whoops, then they forgot to buy me. Like, it's just all crazy. But the larger story over here is all things crypto and just how everything has fallen apart, right? We discussed the Wall story a couple of weeks ago. There's this, every single day there's some like scheme or scam happening on some NFT in the crypto universe. So crypto, the only thing that seems to be having a worse time than, EdTech and maybe Zomato a little bit at the moment is all things crypto.
Yeah, this is the whole piece, right? Is the crypto space the future? It absolutely is. Decentralized economy is the way things will be at a certain point of time. It's as the blockchain kind of becomes a large part of how things are kind of built. That is going to be the case. But I feel we all jumped the gun in saying it's now. And you got to understand that when you say something's deregulated, who are you saying is going to be defunct? Is the people who keep the regulated stuff happening, which is governments, which is financial, larger financial institutions been there for a long time. So there is going to be friction and you got to be mindful of that and build with that. It's easier said than done because as much as you might want to keep it a certain way, you can't, and there are going to be these struggles. But I think this is just unfortunate. I mean, one of the bigger names in this space almost, and this is happening, and also kind of shows that while it might just increase the number of crypto skeptics, and maybe it's the right time for me to finally buy some crypto, which I've never bought. Maybe this is the time to buy and see what happens.
Do it. And when they go low, you come in.
Yes, and buy
101
cheap.
of all things trading.
I'm that person.
And with that, can we call it an episode? Because I am so tired. I just need to sleep, brother. I just need to sleep.
So we will take a short break, come back and do recommendations, and then we will say toodles. So break, everyone. Recommendation on the other side. Suchita is going to say a recommendation is go to sleep, but we will see what she says. Right back to Think Fast.
Yes.
Welcome back to Think Fast, and I'm going to ask Ninja here. Ninja, who do you think should we recommend? We already recommended Darlings. Who else should we recommend? Say hi to Ninja. Hi. See, Ninja is happy here.
Oh my God.
He's in
There you go.
lethal mode here. Happy, lethal.
Lovely.
Happy, lethal. Okay, anyway, what's your recommendation?
What is my recommendation? Oh, there's this very good show that I started watching called The Bear. It's basically like based on this chef who's running this, uber cool restaurant in Chicago, and it's gotten all the accolades. I actually heard about it through a podcast that I love called Airmail. But long story short, if you generally like all things cooking shows /chef / you grew up on watching Anthony Bourdain ++, like if you're generally into the world of, chef cooking, running a restaurant, and just the blood, toil and sweat and anger and vitriol that comes with it, The Bear is a great show. Don't ask me how I am watching it, but
You're watching.
Find a way to watch it yourself and watch it.
I already mentioned Darlings, which is fabulous. I've seen a movie which like start to end just felt flawless. And Shefali Shah,
Dude,
her
I am waiting for a Delhi Crime season 2 to come out. I think she's exceptional.
She's
what a
something
great
else,
actress.
something else. So apart from that, what do I recommend this week? Actually came across something super interesting this week while I was kind of going through a bunch of books. Let me just say it's right here. It's a super interesting book called, which is basically what you might call this podcast is like. It's called Surrounded by Idiots. It's basically on human behavior. It's an interesting book. I mean, I just started reading it, but I'm like a chapter out in it. It is quite fun.
Yes. Now you know how it feels.
Yes, it does. But yeah, that's it for this week. I will go sniffle and get all this goo out of my nose, and you go sleep. And guys, have a good week, and we'll see you guys on the other side. But next week, when you guys see me, I will be 40.
Oh my God, Mr. Varun
This is my last podcast in my 30s, guys. Last podcast in my 30s.
Oh my God. Oh my God. How does it feel though? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you like jittery? What are you?
I'm very like, whatever. I'm generally like a really grumpy
Nonchalant
person around my
it.
birthdays. I'm one of those people. So I'm like, whatever. Yeah. I don't care. I want to be at home. I don't see people. I'm that person.
How are you going to celebrate? That's the real
I have
question.
no idea. I've been told there is some surprise being planned. I'm like, I don't like surprises, but
I am being told there is a surprise being planned.
Because then people are worried that I just go to something
this.
random and like just like, because I'm that person who just suddenly like, guys, I'm sleeping all day on my birthday. I'm that person. So.
Oh my God. It must be a treat to be around. Must be a treat to be around.
So enjoyable.
But toodles, my poodles. This was fun and short and quick, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.